Boys and Girls Club, number 2000 Boys and Girls Club. I thought to myself, I see all that steel, I see all that cinder block work and electrical work and air conditioning work, and it takes about this much stuff to make a jail. It's about what it would take. And that's what we've been doing too much of in recent years. We've been using this kind of material and treasure to build jails to put our children in eventually. No other civilized nation in the world has as many people in jail as we have in jail. So we need more mentors. We need more places like this, where the community comes together and says to the young people of the community, and especially in this neighborhood here, we care about you. Because you see, what these young people are seeing, not just a nice place to play basketball or in the computer room to run a software program. They don't see steel and cinder blocks alone. What they see are people who care about them. What they see are people who love them. What they see are people who have expectations of them and about them and will not let them fail. We do not have anything more important to do than to protect youngsters like this and put them on the road to success. The choice is very simple. We either build our children or we build more jails. It's time to stop building jails and get back to what we know how to do as Americans, and that's to build our children.
Welcome to the Gilchrist experience. I always enjoy Colin Powell talking about the Boys and Girls Club of Harlem. This is something close to my heart. Actually, I went to this school, PS 186, which is owned by the Boys and Girls Club, and after, 30 years, we're finally rehabbing and put affordable housing and 10,000 square feet Boys and Girls Club of Harlem. This in the next 2 years will happen. All right, so that's why I run it. Well, you'll see it for a while now, and we'll do different fundraisers for the Boys and Girls Club of Harlem. And thank you. I'd like to give a shout out to Joshua Weatherspoon, which is actually watching. See, we surprised you, my brother. And welcome his father, Graham, to the show.
Hey, Winston.
Co-host. And I understand your son's on the internet watching the show today.
Yeah, he's in Hancock Park in Los Angeles, and he's into computers, the high-tech stuff, and he's out there in California, he and his wife, and they're enjoying life on the West Coast.
Amen. Amen. So if I take a visit to California?
Well, I'm not saying they have an apartment big enough to put you up, but
I'll stay in a hotel.
They'll find you. Yeah, they're there.
Because I'm looking for hemp oil. That's an elixir that cures all sorts of evil. You know what we're going to do again this week? I know all of you involved with Ferguson, and a couple of weeks ago, a couple of Saturdays ago, we went to Staten Island. We talked about that last week, the earlier part of the show. But you know what we're going to do? I'm going to run a tape on Ferguson. What's his name? The fellow was murdered?
Brown.
Michael Brown. Michael Brown. Now, here, I'll give you an example. The police exposed us to this tape, 10 days after the incident? Before they gave us the name of the police officer who murdered Michael Brown. Now, I want you to watch this closely, because this is what has, the police have, they've raised $400,000 on this tape. All right? I'm going to give you a good look of what the cops have to say about Michael Brown. You you be the judge. All right? So you might have a problem with this tape, but it is Michael Brown, the gentle giant, as we have been told. All right? So run the tape on Michael Brown. If you can still hear us, is Michael coming in with the other young man was the shorter guy with the dreads? He's right behind him. No, I edited it so you can see the full thing. And they enter the store, one guy's, as you can see. Well, you judge for yourself.
He hands off something.
And he gives Michael Brown gives something to the shorter, what's the other young man's name? The guy with the dreads?
I don't know.
No, he reaches over the counter and snatches something.
That's the whole box.
All right?
And he puts his back.
He puts his back. Michael's picking something off the floor, which he just snatched.
And here comes the merchant. Mm-hmm. And the other people are looking out of camera.
Now here's what the this is after the. I should edit it so you. She's already in the store.
Right.
He's coming. Oh, he's walking out. See?
So when he pushes the guy right there, the man backs up.
He's got all his cigars. No. Oh wow. No. All right, come back to me. That's it for that. Now, supposedly, before Officer Wilson runs, now this is 15 minutes later, Michael Brown's walking down the middle of the road with these cigars in his hand.
Right.
All right, so the officers approach him. Give us your scenario. If you were in a patrol car and you're seeing this big guy walk down the street when you know nothing about the incident in the store.
Well, it's not a crime to walk in the street. You know, if anything, the officer could say, hey, what are you doing in the middle of the street, or get on the sidewalk, whatever, and just keep going. We already know that the two incidents have nothing to do with each other.
Okay.
That's an established fact.
But the cops led us to believe that the officer was called out before. They retracted the statement, but the police came out with this video before they gave us the name
before
of
they
Wilson.
gave the name. But that's to besmirch Brown.
But they're showing that Wilson possibly responded to the call of 9/11?
No, the chief did say that they had no knowledge of Brown being a suspect
Right.
in
After
that
they
robbery.
exposed this video.
It comes out later, you see, but the fact is, and the merchant said that he had called the police, and the police said that's not their problem. There is a problem with regard to race in Ferguson.
Okay.
If you're not white, evidently, the police really don't care about what's happened to you if you're the victim. They told the merchant, that's not our problem, and hung up on him. So a call was made. Yes, a call was made, but they can hear from the accent of this Middle Eastern man, he's not an American, you know, he's obviously not white. So they basically tell him, that's not our problem, that's your problem, it's your concern. They hang up the phone on him. So what you see in the video is clearly, by New York standards, a robbery, all right? It's a forcible robbery.
Strong arm.
Strong arm. Michael takes the material, takes the cigars or whatever. The guy tries to retrieve them. Michael pushes the guy. That's physical. That's force. And then, as the man comes towards him, Michael turns again and comes at the guy, and you see the guy retreating. Yeah. So that's the use of force, the threat of physical injury. It's a robbery. Okay. Anytime a person tries to retrieve what has been taken from them and you forcibly prevent them, you've gone from larceny to robbery. Okay. Also, keeping in mind, you saw when Brown took the items and passed them to his friend.
Yeah, his friend put it back.
His friend subsequently puts it back on the counter. He doesn't want any part of that.
Right.
All right? What he did was correct. But the problem is that he came into the store with Brown. And this is what our young people need to understand. You need to be careful of who you're rolling with at all times.
So he's
in a scenario like that, he would have been arrested or could have been arrested, but his defense would have been, well, I put it back on the counter. I didn't take it.
Okay.
Michael handed it to me, and I put it back on the counter.
Right.
All right. We don't have the audio to hear what the dialogue is, but evidently Brown's friend is not trying to be a participant in the theft, which escalates into a robbery.
Right.
There might have been some dialogue between the friend and the merchant. We don't know. But Brown clearly has committed a robbery. And ordinarily, when you're with a friend and they do something like this, you wind up getting arrested too. You're charged with acting in concert because you came together, you left together. The only thing in defense of Brown's friend is that he put back the material that was not paid for. And that would be the question asked of you. Well, you say you weren't part of the crime. You came with the defendant. Did you do anything to prevent the crime? Did you say, hey, don't do that? Did you try to stop it in any way? That would be your only affirmative defense, to say, well, I did try and stop what was going on. I tried to stop my friend from doing whatever they were doing. But clearly, what Brown did there was commit a robbery.
All right. So now we go further. 15 minutes later, Wilson pulls up and tells them, get the F out of the road. Obviously, Brown gave this cop some kind of look to let him know.
He didn't appreciate the way he was being talked.
He didn't appreciate the way he was talked to. All right? So the cop pulls out his pistol and shoots him.
Well,
just by a look.
I was in court years ago, and
then shoots him
a brother was arrested and charged with menacing, and the DA asked, well, how did he menace you? And the cop said, the way he looked at me.
Right.
Menacing can be a very vague term under the law. As many things under the law are vague as opposed to specific. So here was a white cop that I saw in court tell the district attorney that this black guy menaced him with his eyes and the way he looked at him. So let's go now to Ferguson 30 years later. Here is a white cop who is cursing, using profanity, which you're not allowed to do.
But he had the cigars in his hand.
He didn't know anything about what happened at the store.
Michael had the cigars in his hand.
Yes. So what does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. He's walking in the street.
Well, would you think that the cop knew something about him, Michael?
The chief of police said they had no knowledge of what happened.
But do you think Michael thought the cop knew something about the robbery?
He might have.
I would think that he might have thought something.
Right? So, and we don't know. This is where we're getting into he said, she said. I don't know.
Well, I'm just thinking of Michael.
But Michael now, he's in possession of stolen property.
Right.
But if the police officer was responding to him as a result of the robbery, he wouldn't have said to him, get the so-and-so out the street.
Right.
He would have rolled up on him and said, hey, you, hold it right there.
He's by himself. Now, how are you going to stop two guys?
You can call for backup.
Yeah.
You can call for backup. It's not a problem. I've arrested 2 people by myself. It's not an impossible thing to do. And I've done it without calling for backup.
Well,
but the fact is, he has a car. He has everything he needs to do his job.
Now, Michael's 6'3" and...
Doesn't make a bit of difference.
Well, I mean, we're talking about the white cop
here again now. Here is this officer. He menaced me with his eyes. You can see officers here in New York who obviously are scared to death, standing on the corners.
But from this look,
right?
he shot Michael.
Yeah, but the question is...
Then got out of the car and shot him 5 more times.
Here's the question, though. What actions did Brown make to cause the officer that he was in potential threat of his life?
None. Just a look.
Right? The
If
officer
that,
has.
I mean, we're just speculating at that.
The officer has to be able to articulate something, and this is not something that happened at night in a dark alley.
2
It
o'clock in
happened
the afternoon.
in the afternoon on the street, and people were there witnessing what went down.
But how does a cop get out of the car and then shoot, and he's going down and shoot him in the top of his head?
I can't answer that. One thing that's disturbing to me in
What
this
kind
case
of rage takes that?
is the fact that they have Michael Baden there. Michael Baden is not a credible pathologist. Michael Baden was fired by Mayor Koch years ago for screwing up the medical examiner's office here in New York City. Michael Baden said
You talking in Ferguson?
Yeah. I don't know what they're doing with Michael Baden to promote the case in Ferguson against a police officer. Michael Baden, with regard to the Tawana Brawley case, said that Tawana Brawley was
talking
never
about the
raped.
medical examiner?
Medical examiner Michael Baden.
Ferguson,
What is he doing there? What is he doing there?
Okay.
Allegedly helping the family. What is he doing there? He never in his life met Tawana Brawley, let alone could declare that she was not raped. He never met her, never examined her. He was, in my opinion, paid to say what he said.
All right, we're going to do call-ins, so we give you guys a chance to call in and talk about this. I'm sure you have, and while you're calling in, we're going to rerun the other one about Staten Island, and we'll talk about the 2 cases and how you should respond to police. All right, Graham. Oh, I should have brought that. Oh, I forgot to bring that.
You're old. You got gray hair.
No, I'm talking about the roll-in where we're talking about you gave a seminar at National Action Network Saturday on how to react to police. But we're going to run this other roll-in, which you've seen before. But we're talking about the Gardner case and how to respond to police when you have a problem. All right, we're just going to review this so we know what to do when you run against an occupied madmen. Occupied, what? All right, run another tape. We'll be right back at you.
Business. The fight break outside. Don't say for me.
That's all right.
The people that's fighting is to walk away. Are you serious? Let go. What am I doing? Take me back from what? I didn't sell anything. I did nothing. We sit here the whole time, run our business. What are you talking about? Who else you who else I secret to? To whom? Easy way or hard way for what? Every time you see me, you want to mess with me. I'm tired of it. This time today.
This guy right here is forcibly trying to lock somebody up for breaking up a fight.
Everybody standing here, they told you I didn't do nothing. I did not sell nothing. Because every time you see me, you want to harass me, you want to stop me, trying to sell cigarettes. I'm minding my business, officer. I'm minding my business. Please just leave me alone. I told you the last time. Please just leave me alone. Please, don't touch me. Don't touch me.
Hold on.
Don't touch me, please. Do not touch me.
Put your hand behind your back.
I can't breathe. 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 I can't breathe.
Once again, police beating up on people. Back up right here.
Back up, then get on that step.
Okay.
Back up.
All he did was break up a fight. And this is what happens for breaking up a fight. This is crazy.
Everybody back up, back up.
He can't breathe. Look, now, man, they gave this man a seizure.
Yo, move out the way. Yo.
It's my brother. We live here.
Back up this way. Everybody now back up. It's now going to become a crisis. Back it up. Back it up.
I'm going to my house.
No. This way. Let's go.
Can't go in my
In the house or that way?
All right, I'll go that way.
Pick a choice.
I'm getting my
Let's
bike.
go. You had your chance to get your bike, sir. Staying over there. Right now we haven't seen it.
He's all right. He's good. It has nothing to do with the fight. It has something to do with something else.
As you can see, the last person we saw was Pantaleo.
Pantaleo.
Pantaleo. Now, again, how do you react when confronted by the police? Now, here's a man out there breaking up a fight, had history with Pantaleo. Once before, had a case that was dismissed about harassment. So obviously he's arguing about being harassed in the past over Lucy cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
But when confronted by the police, in this case you gave us the theme to abide by, to not fight in public with the police, but don't resist arrest, which obviously he's done there, and give them a chance to choke you to death. Your comments, Graham? As a police officer,
Well, you have
how
to.
would you take down a guy 6'3", 300 pounds, 360?
There are what is not taught in the academy, in my opinion, are tactics which are readily applicable on the street. The training has changed over the years when they went from the nightstick to the baton, the fiberglass baton. I only used my nightstick once or twice in my career, but most of the cops out there don't have the hand-to-hand training. They haven't studied martial arts or boxing, so they rely heavily on weapons.
But Pantaleo relied on a chokehold.
Well, he relied on the chokehold. It wasn't just Pantaleo. It was not just he. His name is out there, but he's not the only one, because the medical examiner said that it was compression upon his chest cavity, meaning that the other cops are laying on him while his air is being restricted. So it wasn't just Pantaleo with the chokehold. You saw the size of those other cops on top of him.
Yeah, they were big.
And your rib cage has to expand in order for you to breathe. And if people are laying on top of you, compressing your chest cavity, and there's no way in the world you're going to be able to breathe. So it's not just Pantaleo.
Was all that weight on
It's the
top?
weight of the other guys on top of him. And you heard them say, well, give us your hand, give us your hand. His right arm was extended while laying on the ground. And if you're laying on the ground, you can't get your arm behind you. And Pantaleo is laying right behind him on the ground.
Right,
so that right arm, they had the left arm cuffed behind his back, but it's physically impossible for him to get his arm underneath him and to his back at that point.
You got a caller on there? Yes?
Yes, gentlemen.
Yes?
Basic question. What I find very interesting on a situation where you conveniently dismiss or not discuss on a daily basis the amount of crime in the newspapers, in the criminal blotter, committed by black men on a daily basis that you sidestep and don't address in any way, shape, or form. It's in the papers. I cut out articles every day, and I'm building up a binder on this. And it's out of control. It's very inconvenient for people to not even discuss the criminal element in the black community, black on black or black on white. That seems very convenient to me. And you sidestep it completely. And I find it totally disgusting. And the other gentleman to go back and talk about Tawana Brawley, come on, you can't be kidding me.
All right. First of all, I don't have a job because nobody employs me. That's number one. Wait, no. Let me give you history about yourself, your people, and about your country. First of all, if we're going to talk about crime of black men, let's go back and look at the use of germ warfare by your people against the indigenous people of this continent who were here 1,000 years before you all crawled out of the caves. Let's talk about your people who used smallpox and put them in horse blankets to kill off the indigenous people under Trail of Tears as you marched them from the south up into the Dakotas. Let's talk about your people who in 1991 dropped depleted uranium all over the Middle East, in Iraq, which had the highest standard of living of any country in the Middle East. Let's talk about your people, who were the only people to use atomic warfare to kill off yellow people. Let's talk about your people. While there were white people in Europe murdering people, you didn't drop a bomb in Europe. Let's talk about the violence of the Caucasian people. All right? Don't come to this program talking about the numbers of murders when you're running a tab that runs into the millions. Let's talk about the financing of murder throughout Africa by your people over 400 or 500 years. You need to get your behind up and travel around the world and see the offshoot of what your folks have done. You've virtually performed a cancer-ridden state around the globe. And it is not just the people here, it's your ancestors where you came from Europe. No, everybody is not the same. All white people are not bad, all black people are not bad. But your bigoted, racist mentality, you need to take that, can it, and then smash it. All right? Don't call here talking to me or anybody else about what black people are doing. The violence that you have perpetrated through the world has only escalated the violence in the world. You cannot go into Persia, undermine a self-governing entity with the CIA and the British, undermine that government, cause the government to collapse, and then put in an Ayatollah when they had a democratic government. Put in an Ayatollah, because you don't know the history of your people going back as recent as 1950, but I'm going to give you your history. You undermine a government so you can steal the oil and the resources, because this is what you all do, steal the resources from Persia, rename the country Iran, and then when the Ayatollahs don't serve your need, you want to take them out. Just like you tried to do in Cuba when you had that bootlicker Batista, who was working with the mafia and the U.S. government, having them to believe that they were white people over and against black people in Cuba, had the dark-skinned people in Cuba cleaning toilets, while the white-skinned people, thinking that they were white-skinned because white people told them they were white, had them thinking that they could be part of the power elite. So that's what you have in Cuba, all the wannabe white people who left Cuba because they couldn't be white anymore. But you told them they weren't white when Elian Gonzalez's mother took him from Cuba to bring him here to the United States because she could be something here that she was not there. She could be quote-unquote white. But when he got here and his mother had died, the white Attorney General of the United States told the Cubans, you all cut the noise out. We will determine where this boy will go. And if you don't shut up, we'll send you back where you came from. Oh, we're not white. No, you're not white. You're Cubans. Fidel Castro made it clear. We are Cubans. We're not white. We're not black. We're Cubans. But that race card, that comes out of your pocket. That comes out of your mindset. Years ago, people lived as clans, tribes, and nations. There was no such thing as race until Europeans concocted the idea so they could enslave people because they chose not to be Christian or because they didn't look like them.
Hopefully we've given you an answer. Enough time on devils. Next caller, please.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Yes.
Son of MJQ, brothers. How you doing?
Good afternoon.
All right.
All right, first of all, before I say what I want to say, I want to thank Brother Weatherspoon for his dedicated service to the NYPD. It definitely sounds like from the experiences that he has talked about and the things that he's experienced that he's tried to make a difference. And for that, I applaud you, Brother Weatherspoon.
Thank you.
This is what I wanted to say. In the case of Eric Garner, there was an article in the local newspaper, you guys may have seen it, where the edict to crack down on these illegal cigarettes came from Philip Banks.
Yeah.
And there was complaints about Mr. Garner from the local store owners. And one of them even used his name in the complaint. In May, Eric Garner was arrested for selling these cigarettes and was admonished and told not to come back. Even though he did come back and the cops came around, they didn't arrest him. They warned him not to come back. And he still came back. Now, trust me, that officer was definitely wrong in what he did.
But what I want to ask Brother Weatherspoon is,
Wow.
did such an edict exist to his knowledge?
All right, quality of life issues, and this was a quality of life issue. They're nothing new. All right, guys could be shooting dice. Somebody calls up about guys shooting dice in front of their property. Police will respond and tell the guys, get out of here, get to stepping, or we'll arrest them. Yes, I know Phil Banks. I've known him, his family, for many, many decades. This is not about Phil Banks. The quality of life issue, Mr. Gardner should have stayed clear of that area. And understand me, I'm not talking about his murder. I'm just talking about everything leading up to it. He was notified. Selling cigarettes is no big deal. First of all, selling cigarettes is part of homicide itself. You're selling a product that's killing people, so I don't know why they sell them. But yes, he should have stayed clear of that area, avoided it.
Wait a minute, you're trying to say that Gardner was warned not to go in that area?
If he was warned about selling cigarettes, it was in an article. He was arrested before. He was warned, stay clear of the area. All right? If you know that the police are concentrating, and they do concentrate on areas to deal with certain matters, stay clear of the area. If narcotics teams are rolling through the area, you'd be stupid to be out there trying to sell narcotics when you know the narcotics teams are in operation in that area. We need to simply use common sense. Common sense. All right, this whole thing could have been avoided.
He should have never resisted arrest.
He should not have resisted arrest. If the officer says he's going to arrest you, he's going to arrest you. Because if you are going to try and prevent that, the charges are only going to increase in a matter of time.
Right.
What happened to him was not right, nor was it lawful.
Right. Right.
But the object is, if you find yourself in a situation where the officer tells you you're under arrest, you're going, you can't tell him you're not going. Because now you are resisting arrest.
Right.
So what you're saying, brother, is right. He should have avoided that area altogether. And we need to weigh out when we're right and when we're wrong. All right? We can avoid a lot of problems if we just make the right decisions. And life is about decisions.
Right.
You cannot argue a point on a street corner with a cop.
That's right.
The mentality of the cop is that I have to be in control. That's the mentality. And if I'm not in control, then there's going to be a problem.
Right.
So if you understand that you need to be in control of you, and you don't need the cop in control of you, as long as you're in control of you, you can avoid having the cop thinking that he's in control of you. By being in control of yourself and not being out there prevents the cop from being in control of you because you are there. So if you're driving down the road and there's a pothole, you don't drive into the pothole. You avoid the pothole. You turn the wheel and you go this way or you go that way. And that's the same thing with life. When you see a pothole, avoid it.
Right.
Avoid it. Don't drive into the pothole and then blame somebody else for you having driven into the pothole.
Then again, we're not advocating the police for their wrongs. That's twice as bad. Because they're here to serve us, especially in Ferguson. Nowhere in the world, even if he was responding to a robbery, do you shoot people down like he did to Michael.
See, and another thing with Brown, you go back, look at L.A. Look at the beating that what's the brother's name took out in L.A. 25 years ago, Rodney King. They portrayed him as some great giant, some superhuman being, because we kept beating him and he kept getting up.
Right.
As though you're dealing with a superhuman. All right.
And both of these guys were big.
Both of them big. You have police officers that shouldn't be out here. First of all, when I went into the department, there was a height requirement.
Right.
And I'm not talking against people that are short. Let's just be realistic.
Well, you had to be
and I'm not
6
making
foot.
any apologies. Forget it. You had to be 5'7" to be a police officer, which in my opinion,
Taller than that, wasn't it?
no, it was 5'7", which in my opinion was too short, in my opinion. But, and especially as a transit cop, because we have people falling in the tracks.
Yeah.
People fall in the tracks, you got to lift them up. You have to be able to lift them up and put them on the platform. So if you're not even 5'7", you can't pick somebody up and put them on the platform. So you're of no use there. But you have cops out here that are obviously afraid. They're xenophobic. They're afraid of anything that doesn't look like them, sound like them. They're walking around, they're too young and inexperienced. And you see a guy like Brown now, after he curses at Brown, and Brown is looking at him. Whether Brown approached, I don't know. But here now the cop is probably saying to himself, I'm in trouble.
He got scared.
So if he panics and pulls the trigger, therein is another problem. Because we're giving guns to people that aren't truly qualified to be carrying these weapons. And the psychological exam is continually proving to be a farce with regard to the applicant processing. Because if these people were truly certified, mentally stable and fit, we wouldn't have all of these shootings out here.
In the Ferguson incident, obviously he was intimidated by Michael Brown. Michael Brown's size, and he probably gave him an intimidating look.
Yeah, but you can't shoot somebody because
these
they look
cops
intimidating.
Can't, obviously. Obviously, this cop could.
Well, he believed he could.
He felt and threatened, and he claimed he got knocked in the eye, and he had a fight inside the car.
Everybody's claiming they got beat up by a kid hoodie and all of this stuff, and now, you know, those things never happen.
Of course not.
So,
but still, we got an 18-year-old dead and savagely shot down like no human should ever be. Now, any other callers? Next caller, please. All right. But it just goes without saying. It's upsetting to all of us to see this happen. But I just review all this stuff to give you an idea what the police see and what drives them to do heinous acts.
Again, if you don't know how to handle yourself with your two hands and your legs, there will be a problem. I was in a fight with a guy in Queens years ago. I was in plain clothes. One of my guns got ripped out of the holster. Now, the guy didn't know the gun was there, but during the fight, there was an entanglement, and my gun got ripped out of the holster. And this was on Lefferts Boulevard in Queens, not a bad neighborhood, a very good neighborhood. And my weapon slid down the pavement. And the guy got away from me, and he got to the gun before I got to the gun.
What? You never told this story before.
Well, there's a lot of stuff I haven't told you. But I took care of that guy, and I didn't kill him. I didn't shoot him. All right?
But he got a hold of your gun.
He got a hold of the gun. Now, technically, I was justified in killing him. He had my weapon.
Right.
I could have shot him. There would have been no questions asked.
Black guy?
White guy. Would have been no questions asked.
Okay.
I don't care what you are. You got it, you get it. So I didn't kill him because I had another gun. I had another gun. So by the time he got to the gun, before he could roll over, I said, you got two options. Let it go or die. And I had the gun right on him. And I landed on top of him. I said, let it go or die. But even with a big guy, and I fought guys 80 pounds, 90 pounds heavier than I, and I've taken them down. And it wasn't with a nightstick, and it wasn't with the gun. It was with my two hands and my 2 feet. But if people aren't trained to fight to defend themselves in a non-lethal way, then the only recourse they're going to go to is to the gun. And the training is not there. We proposed that they use certain types of martial arts techniques, and the NYPD rejected that. They rejected it.
Next caller. Next caller.
Yeah, hi. My name is Isis.
Hello,
Isis.
Hi, how are you?
Are you the lady who used to work in the back here? Is that you?
No, but I'm definitely a Harlem resident. Okay. I wanted to make a couple of comments. The first, there was a small black book for our black male youth that was published. I'm not quite sure if it was published by the Urban League or the NAACP some years ago, because I used to sell them and give them out. I think they need to do some reprints and distribute those books to our black male youth in schools, in churches, on the job, etc. Because it spoke about how to deal with the police in events that they stop you for whatever reason. And one of the things they did mention is that how to conduct yourself, because I've seen police stop our youth, and our youth just totally go off in some instances. You know, I've had to step in on one particular instance in the projects in Harlem where the police had stopped a young man who was just standing by the park bench, but they felt that he had sold some type of drugs or whatever the case may be. And I just told them to not get upset, not to curse them out and go through changes. I took pictures of them, and I didn't say anything to them, but they eventually let him go because they knew someone was standing there watching.
Right.
So I think that our young youth need to learn how to handle themselves in these types of situations, given the lack of cultural information that many of these white policemen have. And I have asked many people, I said, listen, when was the last time you saw 5 or 6 black cops beating up on a white pedestrian or a white person at any time for any type of reason? I don't care if it was a traffic infraction or whatever the case may have been. All right, they cannot name one particular incident where that has happened. Right. The second thing I'd like to say is, with respect to so many of our youth being gunned down by the white police, and this has been going on for 4 centuries now?
Yeah.
Okay, that's nothing new. Especially, I was in Florida when the Trayvon Martin situation handled, and they came up with this law about stand your ground. That law was established for one purpose: if someone was trespassing on your property, all right, and that person, if you had trespassing signs, no trespassing signs on your property, and the person came onto your property with those trespassing signs showing, then you had a right to stand your ground and protect yourself. All right, so if you shot the person, you didn't say you were going to kill him. You just said, basically, I was trying to stop him, okay, from approaching me in any particular manner. But they applied that particular law to this whole Trayvon Martin situation. Right. And I felt that this was atrocious. I mean, and I made myself, I made this known in many instances because this was not the case. This is not why this law was established. And finally, I have to say this. Our people need to be educated with respect to the law in terms that they can understand. All right? They need to be educated with respect to how to deal with these police, because the police, for many reasons, will respond to our people if they feel that they're being disrespected, right, and their authority is being disrespected in any possible manner. And in instances, they will conjure up certain things.
Of course.
But we have to learn not to give them a reason, all right, to make any type of motion towards us that is going to cause some bodily harm, because as you can see with the Eleanor Bumpers situation and many other situations, these things have occurred. I myself had encountered police on my property when I reported someone who had trespassed in my basement, one of my tenants who was white and Jewish. The police came, and I said to them, and I had to be perfectly honest with them, I said, this is the law. He's trespassing. He broke into the basement. All right, so therefore, I want to have him arrested. And they tried to convince me, because he was white and Jewish, not to have him arrested. And that maybe, in some sense, I got a sense that they were thinking that I was the one who was perpetrating the crime. And I said to them perfectly clear, I said, listen, I am not Eleanor Bumpers. I am not putting myself in a position. I own this property. All right? So therefore, you're not going to get me to get upset with you when, in fact, I know that this person broke into the basement of our house, all right, and was trespassing. I want to have him arrested. And the officer said, oh, okay. But I wasn't getting melodramatic. I didn't get excited, and I didn't get emotional. All right? I just stood my ground in terms of the knowledge of the law and what I could and could not do. And this is why I'm saying that I feel that we need to know a little bit more about the law and what we can and cannot do. Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate your call and your comments and your examples of how to handle yourself in these situations. We have many other callers on, but we'll just save your answer. Did you hear, one question, did you hear the first caller, which Graham responded to? Did you hear the first caller? Well, anyway, the first caller obviously was responding to the fact that there's so much black-on-black crime out here, and this is something else that we need to address ourselves, all right? If you give respect, you get respect. And this is why we have people come out of the closet like this when they see so many black people killing each other. I say on this program many a day that we have to get along with each other. We got to stop killing each other. Let's start there. And that's from the gentleman who called the week before about grabbing guns and going up and killing people. And I said, what about stopping us killing each other? So you don't get this response from other people when we're taking care of business ourselves.
There's a degree of transference of guilt, and I will not let that white guy get away with that BS on this show.
Of course not.
Because I had to challenge some students at Pennaqueoc Law School years ago. I was up there doing a lecture. We don't need your help in handling this stuff. Handle the bigots in your family, handle the bigots in your community, stand up against the bigots in your neighborhood, and then you have the right to talk about what should and should not be. And I'm sure that the gentleman that called in, he's not able to do that. The New York Civil Liberties Union has also published a pamphlet on what to do when stopped by the police. We wrote that program about 13 or 14 years ago when I was with 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement. We wrote that. And it's not copyrighted because we gave it out free to the world so that people could have it. So nobody has a copyright on it. And don't ever pay for that information because they have no right to copyright and charge you for it. The New York Civil Liberties has it. It's on, I think, 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement on their website, on what to do when stopped by the police. We have another caller.
Next call, please.
Hello.
Yes.
This is Graham's son.
Joshua.
Hello.
What's up, Josh? What do you think?
Hey, good.
What do you think?
Watching. Well, I just wanted to say, I was speaking with a friend on Facebook about some of these things. We were talking about the Ferguson thing. We were talking about Trayvon Martin, all that, why these things keep happening. And one of the things that I was saying is that I feel like in this country, we've kind of built in this sense of fear and machismoism and vengeance.
Right.
And I think if we let go of some of that when dealing with people of our own, cultural group, our own community, communities, then we'll be able to let down our defenses and understand each other. We won't be pulling guns on each other and ready to fight.
Right.
I know I had an incident one time when I was visiting New York, and a man came up to me and started approaching me and was like, yo, and walking towards me on the platform. And I was thinking he was going to jump me, so I was ready to fight. Little did I know, he pulled out his badge. So if I would have came to this guy, if I would have hit this man, I would have then assaulted an officer. But I had to step back and realize, let me assess the situation before I do anything, and not just be like, okay, this guy's going to jump me. I need to just have vengeance and attack this man. And I've had incidents. I lived predominantly in a white town in Texas for my teen years. I was going to a friend's house with a pellet gun. Somebody saw it, thought I had a real gun, called the police. And the police came up on me, and I obviously knew why they were coming, because I was just going to go shoot the pellet gun in the field. But they came at me nice. I raised my hands like you're supposed to, like you were talking about, knowing what you should do. I raised my hands.
Right.
They got the pellet gun. I explained the situation. I didn't yell or say, hey, I just have a pellet gun. Why are y'all messing with me? Y'all are always messing with me. We were both very cordial with each other. I knew they had a job to do. They had someone who called in. I was very calm. They were very calm. And I feel like if people handle situations as people being stopped by the police and as police officers in that kind of manner, then we'll be able to not have these situations. And the police need to get with the community and understand the frustrations that the community goes through with some of these police officers that are taking advantage of their power and just breeding this like machismo and this vengeance, things like that. So yeah, it's just something that we were talking about back and forth, me and a friend on Facebook, and I think that's something that I think a lot of people got to realize.
Was this taught you by fear or by reasoning? Did Dad say? How did Dad treat you? Did he say he whoop at you, or he talk nice?
I do know. My dad let me see a lockup one time, and that definitely made me think about how I'll act in my life and who, as you said, I will hang out with.
Right.
Well, you know, my son tried to get me to shoot a guy once. I don't know if you remember, Josh. We were in the car.
I did.
Yeah. Josh was like, "Shoot him, Dad! Shoot him! Shoot him!" No.
Oh.
But Joshua, my son, my youngest son.
How old are you, Josh?
How old am I? 33.
Okay.
He's very cerebral. You know, he's a quiet guy, but don't provoke him.
Right.
But when Joshua was young, he's like, "Yeah, shoot him, Dad! Shoot him, Dad!"
I was very vengeful.
I
had to learn that over time.
See, that's what it takes sometimes. We're all hotheads when we're young. I mean, I was a hothead when I was a kid. I mean, when I was 18, I was in the Corps. So I came home from boot camp and swore I was Superman and scared everybody on the block. But that's what happens when you mature and you come along and things get a little better, and you learn humility, which is the most difficult thing for all humans to learn.
Right.
To learn to be humble and giving and loving. And this is what we have to learn as a people. It's within our nature to be loving and giving. And you can see from the standpoint of a police officer, and this is the nicest cop I know. I mean, as intimidating as he can be. You see what happens when he gets angry. He scare anybody, right?
Right.
All right. So you learn humility, and you learn that even the bad guys can be nice.
Exactly.
Right?
Every bad guy has
a good side.
A mother and a father.
That's
right.
Where, we all have to learn that we have God and the devil it comes with the human kit. You have God and the devil, and you have to seek to the goodness in your heart, to the God-centeredness. Thank you for calling, Josh.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
Talk to you later.
All right, next caller, please. Next caller, please. Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, this is on the standards to be an officer. Now, when a gentleman on the panel here, when you first came on, wasn't the standard basically you were able to come from a New York City high school, which we pay tax dollars to, and go in to the police department as an officer, and that basically change the complexion of the department, make sure that you have more blacks and Latinos on? Why did they change the standard? Shouldn't they go back to that standard to become a basic officer? Now, if you want to be, say, anything like administrator, then yeah, you can put in some of those other standards, but at least that base pool will be reflective of the community, which are good paying jobs, more likely they'll live in the community, because you talk about community policing, and also those dollars will go back into that community because they're not apt to do like this whole flight thing, the standard.
You have hit the nail on the head. Years ago, you had to be a New York City resident in order to be a police officer. What the PBA did, and this is part of political structure, and you need to understand, unions have registered and hired lobbyists who promote legislative change. So what the PBA did, and the Metropolitan Police Conference, they hired a lobbyist to have the law change requiring you to be a resident of New York City in order to join the New York City Police Department. It took a number of years, but they got it passed. You, as a New York City resident, cannot work in Suffolk County. They won't allow it.
Right.
You don't live there. Now, the day that that law was changed, the PBA president moved from New York City upstate. The very day the law was effective, which means he already had a home upstate.
Right. Right, right.
Prior to the law being changed. Why do we want police officers to reside in New York? Number one, as you said, it keeps the money circulating in New York.
Right.
When I was a cop living in Clinton Hill, my neighbors knew that I was a police officer, and there were other police officers in the block, and people knew who they could go to for help if anything went down. So it's good to have that presence there. Another thing, it gave jobs to young men coming out of high school, college, whatever it is, at age 21 where they could work. And the problem now is that because of Bloomberg and Ray Kelly, a lot of young brothers who could and should be police officers have gotten a record because of the illegal search and seizure. The searches, the pat-downs, you can see that at times, because the pat-down is for a weapon. They had no business going in your pockets, emptying your pockets, and then charging you with possession of marijuana or whatever. There was no substantive basis. And none of the judges have seen fit not only to dismiss the cases, but to expunge the records of these young men who have been hit in that way so that they can get a job down the road. Because if you have the arrest, you can't get the job. So what they have done, through the implication of racism and the exercise of racism, they prevented young men from getting civil service jobs in the city and in the community where they live, while those who live outside of the community and outside of the city can get those jobs. It's economic and socialized racism. You hit it on the head.
You know, it's interesting, this show, as usual, we passed on a lot of information, and hopefully we stimulated the thoughts on how to handle yourself when confronted by the police. Weekly, we seem to be constantly concerned with this because of the fact that too many things are happening to us. But the main concentration, I feel, should be how we treat one another. I mean, this has got to stop on how we're hurting. You see this first caller? Now, I can imagine how many other people are out there thinking the same way he's thinking. Why are we spending so much time talking about Ferguson? You should be talking about black on black crime. I mean, that's prevalent, and that should be. That's probably one of the reasons why we get. Now, I understand.
There are white people that commit crimes against white
we
people,
know that,
and that's not an issue.
We know the wrongs that are out there.
And what media is doing to play.
But we're about to wind down, and you know, the God in me loves the God in you. I'm just bringing to point out that we've learned to take care of ourselves. That's all I mean to say, and stop this hating each other. And then once we get respect for each other, I'm sure we'll demand and command respect from everybody else. So let's take care of home first. The God in me loves the God in you, and please come next week and we'll have more good topics. The God in me loves the God in you. God bless.